Our next story comes from the new book, Small Miracles for Women, by our good friends Yitta Halberstam and Judith Leventhal. And while it may be a small miracle, it's one you're likely to be talking about for some time. So get ready to witness an attempted robbery in broad daylight, a crime that might have gone as planned if it weren't for a truly remarkable twist of fate. It was March 30th, 2000, just another day for the citizens of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or so Colleen Jacobson thought as she woke that morning.
It was like any other morning. It was a matter of turning the alarm off, getting the coffee going, reading maybe the front page of the paper. Whoa, look what time it is. I've got to get going. I'm not going to be late. It was the challenge to get ready and out the door on time to be where I was supposed to be.
For over 7 years, Colleen had worked as a roving bank teller.
A rover's like a substitute teacher. You're going to fill in and help the team that is short people. You could be called to a branch for a day, for 2 days, for a week. I had never worked at this branch before.
Colleen didn't know that her day was about to turn into something bordering on the miraculous.
This was going to be my last week of roving. It was already arranged. I had applied and was accepted at a branch in the suburbs. And I was looking forward to this week, sort of as a finale and just something new, somewhere I had never been before.
It was the beginning of a routine day at the bank.
9 o'clock comes around and there was already a line formed out the door. They started coming in. And I probably waited on maybe 1, 2 customers. Okay, it just went in. It's available for you today.
And then, as she had done thousands of times before, Colleen beckoned to the next customer in line.
May I help whoever's next?
Would you cash this check for me, please?
Certainly. As I ticked the check, right away I noticed it was the same design that I have.
What Colleen noticed next would send her blood pressure sky high.
When I took the driver's license off the check, I saw my name. Then I saw my husband's name, and I thought, this is my check. Why would this woman have my check? My mind was racing, my heart was racing, but I had to get it in my head. Now, what do I do? What do I do next? What have we been trained? What have we been taught to do?
Somehow, Colleen managed to come up with a stalling tactic until she gathered her wits about her.
I was somewhat flustered. I didn't want her to get suspicious, so I just told her I was having trouble with the computer, that it wasn't going through. And meanwhile, I'm tapping on the keys to make like I was trying to process the check.
Feeling more and more distressed, Colleen turned to teller coordinator Tracy Welsh for help.
Call security now. This is my check and I did not write it.
Okay.
I'm just having a little trouble with the computer, getting it to go through. Just be a second.
Tracy didn't waste any time alerting security guard Michael Snyder of the problem.
I informed him of the situation, and Colleen was stalling so that he would keep her in the bank longer.
I asked her what the check was for, which you would not normally do, but I was just trying to get a conversation going, and she said,
It was for some clothes. You know, the lady that wrote the check is outside. I could go out and get her.
that would be helpful. I thought she wasn't going to be coming back, which of course she had no plans to. And I signaled to Michael, that's her, go get her, that's her.
I then started following her probably about 20 to 30 feet behind her. She turned around and saw me. At that point, she started to run.
Ma'am, there's a problem with your check. I need to come back to the bank.
Gotta find my friend.
Ma'am, I need you to come back to the bank.
I can't come back. I'm looking for my friend.
All along, I knew that they'd already called the police as soon as I left the bank, but they were trying to find me.
Officer Donald Erb was on duty nearby.
I received a radio dispatch call. I proceeded to check the immediate area where she was last seen, and I was not able to locate either the security officer or the female that was described to me.
The suspect had led Michael Snyder several blocks from the bank when she attempted to get rid of the checkbook.
I was trying to subdue her when I observed two gentlemen looking at me.
Can you guys help me here?
She was still struggling and was still kicking. We lifted her up off the ground a little bit and then laid her down onto the sidewalk.
Ma'am, just relax until the police get here.
A few minutes later, Officer Erb arrived and then took the woman into custody.
With the suspect finally subdued, it was time to piece together how she'd come into possession of Colleen's checks in the first place.
Upon interviewing Colleen Jacobson, she advised me that she had ordered some new checks and never had received those checks.
What we had heard later was that it was not our regular mailman. There was a substitute that day. And the checks couldn't fit through the door slot. And his reasoning was he would just put them at the door so I would have them when I came home.
Unfortunately, the checks ended up in the wrong hands. The woman was subsequently charged with forgery and placed in custody pending a verdict in the Court of Common Pleas. Her actions that day had set into motion the most extraordinary chain of coincidences that anyone could have ever imagined.
I've been there 14 years as a policeman. This is by far the most bizarre case I think I've probably ever had in my career. Hopefully, I'm sure probably the most bizarre case I ever will have. I'm sure it's very, very unusual.
Colleen had never been to our branch before, and this was her last week roving. She was going to a permanent position. I mean, everything that transpired was just bizarre.
The chances of her bringing the teller's check in on the day that she happened to be working at her bank,
Can I help whoever's next?
just everything involved with the whole story, I think was pretty amazing.
I've never had an experience like this. As surprised as I was when I saw that check was mine, I imagine it was no match to her surprise when they told her later who she had handed the check to. Talking to my husband, I said, would Jimmy the Greek like these odds? I mean, they're just phenomenal. It was just unbelievable.